Good evening. Today is Thursday, January 15th, 2015. This is the monthly meeting of the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission. I am Donald Webb, President. First, I would like to call to order and introduce our board members, starting to my far right.
Janice King, member.
Ron Moat, Vice President.
Mac Bellner, member.
Tammy Story, School Board Representative.
Kathy Chappell will not be here tonight. She had to go home ill and is feeling bad, so thankfully she will stay away from us. First thing we're going to do is, it's a new year, and I wanted to congratulate all of our board members as we were all unanimously reappointed for another term this year as on the RDC, but we have to elect officers. Now, Kathy did say in her email that she would be happy to give up the secretary if somebody wants it, but I don't care. How would you guys like to go about electing?
Well, the way you're supposed to do it is one of us is supposed to nominate, because there's not a president right now.
Right.
So we're supposed to nominate president, we vote, and then whoever gets president, then you start taking nominations for the rest of us.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would like to nominate you again as president.
I second.
Somebody's supposed to lead it? Does anybody else have any, I'm supposed to be leading this thing. Does anybody else have any recommendations?
I don't think that I can recommend. 'cause
Do you have
I'm
any
not a voting member.
recommendation? Do you have anybody else you'd like to recommend?
Let's call the question. Let's vote.
Okay. Everybody that's in favor of Don being the president again, signify by raising your hand and say aye.
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 Okay, well, thank you for your vote of confidence, guys. Well, let's do vice president. I'll open the floor for nominations for vice president. Do you still want to do it, Ron?
Yep.
I'll nominate Ron then if he wants to keep on. Does anybody else want to nominate?
Does anybody else want it?
Okay, well then, I'll ask for a vote to approve Ron as vice president for another year on the redevelopment council.
I'll make a motion to approve that nomination.
All in favor?
You have to get
Aye.
a second.
Oh, I thought I got
second.
You have to get a second.
You're right. Okay, so now all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. So Max said aye as well. Okay, third is secretary. And again, Kathy said she would do it. The punishment for being sick and not being here should probably be to nominate her and have her do it again.
I agree.
That will teach her to take better care of her health.
I agree.
So I will officially nominate Kathy Chappell to be our secretary again.
I second.
Oh, wait a minute, I can't, I'm sorry. I'll ask somebody to nominate her.
I'll
then.
make a nomination to make Kathy a secretary.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, board is set. Okay, so next we're gonna move on to the payment of bills. We didn't have a December meeting because Christmas and we wanted to spend time with our families, but we did have some bills that carried over from last year that we have to approve. We'd already voted to approve them. This voucher is for $514,495.51. The two big ones on here are Midwest Paving and Reith Riley Construction Company. Midwest Paving was $157,556.86. We approved that as part of when the mayor's proposal for 8th Street, the entrance to the park, the alley behind 17th and 18th, and there was one other thing, and Buffalo was bad. So those two, the other one for Reith Riley was $62,485.50. So that was the paving. Peters Consultants, that's Jeff Peters, he's basically our financial planner. That's $2,063. There's also another one here for $5,035.97. We still have a sewage bill, and I'm gonna have to check with Dan on that, because I gotta believe that is for the rock pile, and I thought we got that transferred over. So I will follow up tomorrow, because that's the one I have in question. Lewis Caps, which Robert, our attorney, that group, $2,463.40 and $748.90. And then the other ones are Regions Trust for $105,000, $36,072, $95,000, and $46,245. That is the servicing of the debt that the RDC has. So those are for the debt. Jackson Lewis, $286 and $780. those are things that Craig has done for us, or was charged the RDC for, that he has done for us in our name. And then Regions Trust is $806.25. I think that's their fees for handling the debt.
So what is our balance now after all of this?
Well, you got to remember, we just got paid or got money deposited in our account. We're still in good shape.
Okay,
But, well, the Midwest paving and that, the 200 and roughly 20,000, that was what we approved, and that was in last year's budget.
okay.
And I think in the last city council meeting, Dan said that they put 600,000 in our checking account.
Okay,
So we've still got enough money to keep the lights on.
okay.
But these are all the bills, and I have them here if anybody wants to look. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask a motion to approve the payment of all these bills.
I'll move.
I'd like a second.
Second?
All in favor of paying the bills that I have listed?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? If you guys will just sign, we will be done with that part.
I have a question. It's 105,000 to Regents, I believe you said. Is that like a quarterly payment?
I think it's bi-yearly. I think we play once in January and then like once
Okay.
in June or July is how.
That's actually the payment, and then the other.
We pay roughly 580,000 a year in debt to Regions for there's two of them that were for like $6 million. And those will be paid from 2021 and 2023 is when both those will come off the books or be done paying.
And those
for.
are from loans that were previously like 2008, 2009?
2006, 2008,
Okay.
somewhere in that range. Those were for Digital City, Emerson Avenue and stuff like that. So. The next one I have on our agenda for tonight is Mayor Buckley would like to speak to us about the Churchman Avenue project.
Good evening. Before I get started, I just wanted to thank you for the work that you've done over the last year or so. It's a big improvement, and as someone who lives there, I really appreciate it very much. You should have received in the mail an email from the IMPO stating that we were awarded those funds. We had talked about that earlier, and I'd asked for your support in this for the first year. And then we'll go from there. But the city was awarded almost $800,000 for the sidewalks on Churchman, and I think that's a good deal. We're going to design it a little different, I think, to accommodate walkers, runners, and bicyclists, so we can kill two birds with one stone. So that's that, and I would ask that you help us and move forward with that. There'll be some design work this year, but no construction until 2018. That's when it'll be under construction. So that's all I have on that part.
You guys, are you asking us to approve it tonight or?
Yeah, just for the first year.
Okay, do you guys remember, I've got it here in case somebody remembers, but it was 4 years. The first year was $134,200. Year two was $104,200. Year three was $12,800, and then the final year, which is 2018, was $197,780. And roughly the cost to the city, or what the RDC picks up, is $448,980. But we also get almost $791,120 in federal grants. So basically, it's a 2-for-1 to bring money to accomplish this project. And I'll pass this around in case nobody remembers it, but my thought on it was we agreed, or we put in our budget for 2015 that we would help the city of Beech Grove with $175,000 is what we had said we'd budget for roads and repairs. And in talking to the mayor, he said that that money we budgeted, he'd like us to use to approve the first year. So I think that's a good idea. The mayor's satisfied with that, and I'll leave it up to you guys to look at this and see what you think. And somebody wants to make a motion to approve that, I would happily second it.
Are you going to be doing any other street repairs this year?
Yes, and we're going to reconstruct Bell Fountain from Emerson to 9th. That will all come out, and we'll redo that. And then we're going to install storm drains and pave the parking lot at the Little League Diamonds. So we're going to be doing that as well. But that's a stormwater matter.
So that's the only street work that you're going to do in 2015?
Yes, Bell Fountain, I think if anybody who drives on it know how terrible it is, and it's probably the second worst road in Beech Grove other than Royal Road, and we fixed Royal Road this last paving cycle. But it'll cost probably $450,000 to properly fix Bell Fountain.
I thought at one point in time you guys had talked about doing Grovewood.
We are, but not in 2015. Trent had given me some numbers before this evening, and I estimated that it would cost at least $2 million to repair Grovewood, or to fix Grovewood properly.
Because I know it's, a lot of the damage is eating through people's driveways and stuff, and it's.
I agree with you. You are absolutely right. But
I know you can only do what you can do.
it just takes so much time, and
I know.
the roads are so bad, and I'm not going to Band-Aid a road. I'm going to tear it out and fix it right.
Right.
So, thank you very much.
On that proposal? Well, like I say, we pledged 175,000. This is 134,200 of it. I'm gonna make a motion that we support this project, and I cannot make a motion.
You cannot, but I will make that motion for you.
So the president can never make a motion? I'm just trying to
Exactly.
understand.
The president is running the meeting. You're not making the motion.
Okay.
You
well, I will
can
never make
request a motion,
again.
you
can
can
request-
entertain a
Okay, well,
motion.
I would say your motion should be just the first year and go from there.
Okay. Yeah. So we request the motion.
Okay,
So she's going to.
I will so
make a
move.
motion.
okay. Is there a
First
second?
year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I as well.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, here, what was next? We had well, do we want to do the Greenway presentation next, or?
Can I very quickly do the NRP update?
Yes,
Mac, right to your left.
Oh,
If you could
yes.
pass that out right there, just that first
This one?
file. Yes. I just wanted to give that for your information, and very briefly tell you that there was a pre-construction meeting, I think it was last week, I'm not sure, but they're getting ready to start the installation of sewers and the retention pond and the road, so they got delayed a little bit by the cold weather, but they're getting ready to go on that, so I would say pretty soon you'll see a lot of movement over there. But that is just for your information. So if there's any questions, I'll try and answer them, but that's just for your reading.
well, I knew they said they were gonna be aggressive on it, and boy, they weren't kidding.
Yeah.
So, and there's still a chance they may do a phase two eventually, right?
Yeah, they're going to talk to you folks in the city because they've already started talking about phase two somewhere else in Beech Grove,
That'd be great.
so.
Hold on to that for sure. So let me see here, I had the Greenway presentation.
Yes, if I can preface it very quickly, I talked to you last year about, I feel like the city should do some type of cultural trail or a greenway or whatever you want to call it. I think it would enhance the city. It would enhance the property values, but I thought about doing it a little differently. I wanted to connect the parks to the schools, to the library, and a couple other significant spots in Beech Grove, and I think it would be good to promote walking, jogging, and bicycling. But I didn't want to reinvent the wheel as well. Trent's company was involved in the Greenway, and the city's going to be a willing participant to work with you folks with this. So having said that, I'd like to turn it over to Trent and for a small presentation on the Greenway. Thank you very much. Trent?
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Trent Newport. I'm with Crossroad Engineers. We have a civil engineering firm here that's here in the city of Beech Grove, if you're not aware. This is Michael Krischel. He's with Schneider. And both of us had worked on this project back when it was started. Actually, Michael's company, Schneider, was the lead firm in it, and we were providing some support roles. They no longer have a transportation department, so we're kind of flip-flopping. If we do move forward, we would take the lead role, but we would also have Michael on the team. He's a landscape architect, so he brings that element. By the way, this is the same roles that we provided on your downtown Main Street projects,
You worked
which
on
we're
the
very proud of.
roundabouts and everything, didn't you?
Huh?
You worked on the roundabouts and everything,
We did, yes.
because you came and talked to the school board.
Yes, several times, yes. So you have a few exhibits in front of you. The first one is actually, they might be in order basically from north to going south and then east, but in the order of importance really of what we're probably talking about as far as the first phase, we're probably talking about the second sheet. The first sheet originally was called Phase 3, and on this project that I'm speaking of, this actually kind of started back in 2006 as a concept. They got approval got funding through the MPO, which is where we've been, all the other fundings we've been talking about and the mayor talked about for Churchman, same place. But the project stalled out, financial issues did not allow the city to go forward. They went forward with Main Street, which was the highest priority. And so basically the way the MPO operates is that money, if you don't use it in the time frame that they gave you, they're going to lose it. And so the city was good enough to go to them and say, we're going to give this back so somebody can use it. And I know that the MPO was very appreciative of that, just from our talks. And I think that bodes well for trying to go back and say, we did the right thing back then, but now we want to engage and go forward. I think they had to the tune of $2 million or so in funding back then. And mostly that funding was to build what is shown in yellow on that second sheet. From Sarah Bolton Park, down along the creek, and then to the intermediate school. Actually, in that entire area is all within the right-of-way or land owned by the city. And so that is pretty unheard of on these type of projects. Generally, one of the things that really slows and stops a project like this is the fact that there are right-of-way costs, and there's places you got to go get right-of-way, and you have to, buy right-of-way from people who really might not want it at times and so forth. But you have that right-of-way all the way through that area. Obviously the park, but then also beyond the park, there's a stretch all along the creek there that's owned by the city as kind of common area. And then, of course, the school owns the piece behind the intermediate, and the school has been a good partner on other projects that the city's done, like the recent Safe Routes to School, which we also did in combination with the city and the school. I think probably of second interest, if we ordered these in kind of priority, from what I understand, not only back then, but from talking to the mayor, maybe going forward, what the interest is. The second interest would be this green one on that second sheet, which is also kind of shown on the third sheet in a bigger scale. And there's two different alternate routes there to get over to basically Hornet Drive, which gets you to the high school. Obviously, there's sidewalks all the way on Hornet already. And so if we can get across Emerson there, there's two routes there, one that follows the creek and then kind of doubles back along Emerson. The other one we're looking at is along that private road down through there. And that might be just something where we could do to save some cost. But basically, we think that we might be able to look at this and try to come up with a plan of what the priorities are for the city and the RDC, on what portions are priorities, go back and kind of get back into the file. It's now about 8 years old since the start of this, and get yourself in position to be able to go get funding. On a project of this size, you really need to put forth some effort to get it to the point where you know what your costs are, what you really need to ask for, kind of work on some of the routes and the limits to make sure you know that, and then put a very good proposal to the MPO. We expect that call for projects to be in May or June, and then you would find out November, December timeframe of 2015. And so, and there was work done on this project, so a lot of it we will be able to pick up and use And that will save the money, from the city standpoint, that will save some money going forward with the project. But the first thing, I think, the first priority is to find out if it's something the city does want to go forward with, and then getting yourself in a position to go get the funding. And so what we've talked about with the mayor is to kind of set aside some money between now and May to engage us to do some work, to put some things together, scope, so forth, make sure we're doing the project limits the way everybody wants, talk about maybe some specific areas where we have some decisions that will determine maybe a little bit better cost on a preliminary side, and then put that cost together and work to put just a killer proposal together so that you get the funding. This would also include at least one, if not more, meetings with the MPO between now and then. So, one of the things that I've found is very successful, and we did this on Main Street in Beech Grove, is well before we submit, we go down and have a meeting and just say, here's a project, and the city is already engaging on it, because that means a lot to them. Most times they want to see, or they will reward people who have put their money where their mouth is and said, we're going to spend some time to develop this project. So our suggestion would be take some money to allow us to just bill hourly with some time to get things assembled, put this proposal together, and then basically stop work at that point until you find out if you get the money, and then pick up with your design from there. These projects do take a long time, so that's one of the negatives of getting federal money. Like you said, in this case, you're probably going to get better than 2-to-1, like you talked about on the other job. It's probably going to even be a better ratio than that, because you've done some work in the past, and it's already been spent. But the flip side of that is, this would be built if you get funding this spring, summer, it would be built like in 2019. So it'd be a year behind, like you're talking about with Churchman. And that's the way they do the funding. They come out every year and ask for projects. There's a big competition throughout the entire metro area, not just Marion County, but the surrounding counties. So there's a lot of competition, and they score them and everything. But they're federal money projects that are programmed out that long, and to give you time to get ready. That doesn't mean it couldn't possibly happen quicker, but that's the latest time it could be built. What we are seeing through the MPO is that if you get your project shovel ready, then you may be able to move up in the schedule. And so that is a possibility. And of course, you'd have to have your match money ready by then and everything else. But one of the things about this project that could help it move up the schedule on time is the fact that you have very limited right-of-way needs. And a lot of times that is one of the things that takes a long time to get a project to construction. So I shy away from even giving you an estimate of what we're talking about on a construction project, but I can tell you that yellow back in 2006 was awarded over $2 million for construction. We will certainly look at ways that we can try to save dollars in places. Maybe we can eliminate a bridge or two. If you notice, we crossed the creek a few times, and that's just because of how tight that area is, but we have some ideas that we'd like to explore that might be able to save some of that money. One of the places that we're crossing two bridges there, the other side of the creek, the west side, is very steep. But we may look at that and say there's a way to build a wall there and get the trail and not have to cross twice and stay on the west side. My company is one of the property owners in that area, and I can tell you that we would be willing to donate an easement. So at least one of the right-of-way parcels is something that we would be able to avoid cost, but there are some other parcels there too, and this is on the side that you don't have as much land, where on the other side you do. But a lot of those things I think that we would need to work out during the next few months to get to that point.
How long do you think it would take you to finalize designs on this project?
To finalize what?
Designs on this project?
The design on the project, because it has to go through the steps, I would say it's probably a year's worth of work,
Okay,
but it goes through a span of probably 2 to 3 years.
okay.
And so without the right-of-way, I'd say you have to start environmental over. So maybe 2 years, I think you could probably get it done. It would be about the fastest.
Okay.
So if you were to be, let's say, for instance, you get your funding and we start a year from now, if you're shovel-ready, there's a chance that, instead of, that would be 16, you might be able to start in late 17 or something like that.
The yellow you said was about $2 million,
It was when it got funded back then.
right? Okay, the green was not included in that proposal at the time?
Correct.
So I guess my question is this. I'm enthusiastic. I live over by where the yellow trail is.
Okay.
My question is, when you talk about submitting this to the MPO, is our goal to submit the yellow and the green, or the yellow, or are we doing this piecemeal, you know what I mean? Because you got page one's north of the yellow line, and then page one's east of it. Are we gonna try to submit it all, or are we gonna submit it in parts over years?
Based on, that's part of the decision we would make in the next few months. And I don't know who all needs to be part of that decision. I know we would work with the mayor to perhaps set up a committee of some sort to kind of talk through those things and see what our priorities are. And some of it's going to be, as you grow it larger, including all three phases, that's got to be more match money. And so you have to decide how much money locally are we willing to put towards this. And so obviously we have to get engaged just to be able to tell you what some of those costs are, so that you can make that decision. But I think at a minimum, based on what I've heard in talking with the mayor, is getting from those Sarah Bolton Park over to where we get to Emerson, so that you can have the connectivity to the high school. That's the minimum. There are already pedestrian crossing signs at Emerson. Those were put in, so they got the push button signs with the flash, and it's marked across there, and it's got curb ramps in. So if we could get to that intersection of Hornet and Emerson, then basically from there, they've got sidewalks and ADA accessibility all the way to the school.
Let me ask you, would you widen those sidewalks? Because, I mean, with the cultural trail, you're gonna have people riding bikes and wanting to walk, and that was, originally, I've lived in Carrington for 18 years now, and originally, the developer had put an easement between two houses, and they were gonna have them come between those two houses and use the sidewalk. And people were up in arms over how could you walk and have bikes on this,
Right.
sidewalk's not very big, so, that's something we can discuss later, but I guess my questions are, to get to May, to where we can put a proposal together, what are you guys proposing as a cost, or cost that we would, I assume the RDC would be asked to pick up the costs of this, so what are we looking at a realistic cost to do this?
I would say probably somewhere in the $10,000 to $20,000 range, just to get to a point where we can have, and all this, again, anything that we do now, it's not lost money. It can be used towards the design, once you go forward.
Right.
But I would say that amount, we don't really need to do any survey work on the ground. We don't need to do those kind of things, but we need to get back into the file, have a good estimate that we can present. That's the biggest thing, is putting together a very detailed estimate, because I don't want to go to the MPO and ask them, go through that exercise, ask them for money, and then we didn't ask enough. We didn't get the project limits that you want. And so that's the part that we'll probably spend a lot of time in doing.
I'd rather ask for more and be given.
Right. We want to have some cushion in it and so forth. But I would say in that range would get you to that point. And then again, my suggestion would be, we have some communities who say, I'm going to bank on that we're going to get this, or we're going to do pieces of this anyway, so I don't want you to stop. But if you're contingent upon the funding on the project going forward, then I would say we'd stop then until we find out whether or not you get the funding.
I think we'll have to have the funding, because the RDC in the city, I don't believe, have the financial resources to foot $2.5 million.
But I think your chances, especially being funded before, that's a pretty unique situation. I can't think of another project in the metro area that gave their money back willingly. Yeah, some got forced to give it back, but the Beech Grove gave it back willingly. And I can't think of anybody that came back and said, now we've got everything in order and we're ready to go forward. And so I think that's going to be pretty impressive and hard for the MPO to not give you the money.
I have a question. I see where Hornet Park will connect over into this other page that takes us over by Trailhead. I see that. But does the part that's for Beech Grove Middle School, down by Beech Grove Central, does that connect in any form or fashion?
That sits to the north of the yellow section.
Yeah, these would have to be part of the discussions to decide what limits you want to go.
Yeah.
I think originally, everything north of Main Street was kind of third priority area. But it does obviously connect, if you could get up to the middle school
Okay,
in some fashion, and we've talked about how to do that. It's tough along where the track's at. But, you know, if we could get along there and get across and we might actually stay next to the creek as you go up to the east of the middle school.
okay.
And the Safe Routes to School project just completed the path that goes from that neighborhood north of, what is that street up there?
Detroit. No, south of Detroit.
The east-west street is up there. Is that Detroit? So, the school? Okay. So the Safe Routes to School connected those neighborhoods off of Detroit down to a path that goes along the west side of the Ball Diamonds, and then it comes across the parking lot and along the east side of the parking lot. So if we came along the creek, we could actually connect to that. And so, you know, those are decisions that we have to make, and getting into this and figuring how much money that is from A to B and B to C will hopefully allow the city to decide, well, we're prepared to go forward with this. Let's ask for it all, or let's ask for this piece.
It'd just be so cool if all of it like connected and you would have like this huge area to walk or
Yeah.
bike or whatever instead
Yeah.
of just partials.
Is there any opportunities to tie to any of the Indianapolis trails that we could
That's what
maybe?
we're working towards.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just wondering if in our discussions, in our proposal, if it wouldn't be if it's not an idea or just a thought to see how we could maybe work together with Indianapolis as well,
Well, this,
to also enhance
Yeah.
the project. Or
This
would that
is,
help enhance the project, I should say?
this is one of the main reasons that Michael's involved, because I'm a nuts and bolts guy, not a planning guy. And so that's a big part of the application, and Mike was very aware of the city's system, and so we will talk about that. These are the same kind of arguments that we made when we went and got funding, when Michael and I did for Main Street Beach Grove, when we went and sold that. And it was a lot of connectivity, you know, the bike route with the bike lane and so forth. So we understand how important those connections are, and we would certainly hit on those. I think the connections that you're showing between your parks and your schools, though, that's it right there. I mean, that's really gonna gain a lot of favor in somebody that's reviewing it. So, and I will say that even if you look at this, you know, one of the things we'll go talk to the MPO about is this is a big project. It's a long stretch. It's a huge length of trail. We may go to them and they may say, you know, we've heard some other communities talking and we know we have this many projects come in, so we would like for you to ask for just this much of it this time. But I will tell you that once you get that first phase in, then going back and asking the next year for the next phase to finish it are almost a done deal.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, because they understand when you presented it to them, it had this entire range, but they're gonna agree to start funding it. And they've always stuck with those commitments. So it would just mean that, you know, half the trail maybe be done in 1 year and the other half the next, which it may take that long anyways. I mean, this is quite a length of trail, so.
So let me ask you, and this is just, so with the funding for this trail, say we went to them and got it, would it be similar to the Churchman Avenue? So in other words, like, instead of having to put up like 800,000 a year one, it might be 150,000,
Yeah.
150,000.
It'll be
That
this,
might- I was gonna say, that would,
That's more
my
powerful.
understanding is we just didn't have the, whatever it was to put up, but this might be more reasonable.
Plus, Don, if I can interrupt.
Please.
The city wants you to partner with the city, so we would split the cost. The city would pick up the cost too.
yeah, and it would be very similar. If you remember that formula that the mayor gave you with Churchman, you were paying, you know, a chunk here in the first year and a chunk in the second year, and then like in the fourth year, you paid an equal amount to those first 2 years. Well, that last chunk was your match money for construction. And that's the way this works. You'll have your design fee, and then you'll have a big hit when it goes to construction. For instance, let's just say it's $2 million that you end up and do in whatever the first phase is of this. You know, your 20% of that's gonna be 400,000. And so that's the chunk that you'll pay at the end of that, you know, in the 4 years. But you may pay somewhere between 200,000 to 400,000 in design fees between now and that time. But like I said, there are, you know, one of the things that we would be able to tell you when we get through this exercise is what are your design fees and what is your match money? Because there are going to be some savings because of the fact that we did the survey. It is 8 years old, but in a lot of these areas, there's not been many changes, you know, and we can field check those areas and that's it. And so, you know, we don't have to redo a lot of that stuff.
So it has to be submitted by May, is that correct?
Yeah, the call has not got a certain date.
Well, roughly May.
But in May is about when we expect them to come out with the call, yeah.
And so when would you guys need to start, right now?
Well, what I would suggest is that we come back next month at your meeting with a contract. And then by the time we get that under, you know, I'd say sometime, the earlier the better from the standpoint of being able to go and meet with the MPO. You know, I think it's better the more that you're ahead of the game as far as when the call comes out to go and at least talk to them about it. And so,
Our next meeting's the 19th of February, my birthday, which is,
Well, we'll have cake candles and.
thank you. Do you guys think you could have your proposal ready by then?
yeah.
Could you maybe have it to us like a week before so the
Yes.
board members could look at it as well as Robert?
Yep.
And you said you started working this a little bit 8 years ago, is that right? Do you have any like proposed renderings or anything that you worked on back then that you might be able to show us what you're thinking?
We do. I know from talking to the mayor, some things are going to change from
Sure.
what was shown back then. There was some, I think at the time, there was some major things going on at Sarah Bolton, and some of those things have already been done, you know.
Restroom building specifically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Was in that cost estimate, and that has been addressed.
Yeah, and
It'd be
so,
nice to see just what you guys kind of envisioned for
Yeah.
this and.
I have a couple things.
yeah.
They're a little
There,
stale. I'll dig 'em
That's
up.
okay.
what we'd probably like to do is
That's-
put those in some kind of format that would be better to visually see, like on an aerial.
Sure.
Because right now, they're on drawings with cross sections, so not real, you know, great to look at and see. Yeah. But we probably have a few graphics that are kind of these kind of things blown up.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, like I said, I lived in Carrington, and I remember the homeowners meeting when this was first brought up, and I thought, you know, at the time, I thought, do I really want this? But, so I went and started doing research, and, you know, you look at Carmel, you look at Westfield, I mean, the Monon Trail continues to go further and further north. It's very popular. Businesses, houses along these trails, you know, if you're sitting on a trail, your house will go up 15% over the guy across the street. You know, one thing we want in Beech Grove is a little more assessed value on our homes and properties, so.
Hopefully it'll entice some to.
Exactly, and in keeping with what's happening in Beech Grove with the recycling program now, getting to going, green, walking trails, family friendly, I think these are good things because they attract young people and families, which is what we want. So I was always enthusiastic about it, and I was really sad when the project fell through, but me personally, I'll be interested to see your proposal because we had budgeted, I think, 10 or 15,000 in our budget for these types of things. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see how the mayor approaches. I mean, I assume like the Greenways Commission would have buy-in on this maybe, I don't know. But I'd love to work with the mayor on this, and I think at least me personally, I think it's a good project for Beech Grove.
And I don't know if that was the intention of the remaining part that they were saying they were committing to these type of projects, but it sounded like if that's the case, then this would be less than that amount. Like I said, what I would probably suggest doing is that we do a contract that's an hourly not to exceed.
Yeah.
And then
That'd be good.
whenever we get to the point where we feel like we've got a good proposal together, we stop, and we may not hit that number, but at least set that number to where we don't have to come back.
But yeah, I mean, like I say, if you guys, next month, we'd be happy to look
Okay.
at it, and I'm sure, at least me, I'd be happy to approve it. I don't know how the other board members feel, if they, any questions or anything, but I think it'd be a big positive for Beech Grove.
Okay.
I mean, because they're everywhere now, and I mean, they do enhance communities, and you see a lot of people on them.
As far as a contract form, is that something that you have that you can provide to us, or
I would ask our RDC lawyer, Robert, there.
do you want me to just provide what we have as a general form?
Why don't you provide what you have as a general form and let us review it?
Okay, all right.
If you could probably get Robert's card,
Yeah, we'll do that.
and that way he can get it, and then he can just email it to the board. Because like I said, I like to have them handle it to make sure we're doing it correctly.
Sure. Okay, any other questions? No. Thank you very much for your time.
Guys,
Hey, Don, one more thing, very
Yes, sir.
briefly. that wasn't on the agenda. I met with the folks at Kinetrix Energy, and I believe that area east where refined metals used to be, all that through there, I think it is in a TIF district, which would be under your folks' control. They're getting ready to close on that. They're going to purchase that, and then they're going to develop it. So, and they're not going to ask for any incentive. They are a wonderful corporate customer of Beech Grove. So that, I think they're going to put an office building in there in their staging area. So that
Great news.
becomes taxes for you folks again. So I wanted to let you know because I met with them yesterday and
Great.
While you're up there, is there any update on St. Francis?
I'll defer to Bob on that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you.
Not much to elaborate on or add, other than they were scheduled, St. Francis was scheduled to come to the Board of Zoning Appeal meeting on the 5th of January, but I understand there was a miscommunication with their engineering firm, the surveyors, in terms of the schedule. So now it's been moved to the February meeting. And St. Francis expects it to close shortly after that, if the variances are granted.
Thank you.
Well, that covers it for the business that I have. I'll open the floor to any comments, if any citizens have anything, and. our
Update on the
board-
Beech Grove Station, the rock pile, is that?
That's what the mayor talked
Oh,
about.
that's what you, yeah,
Yes.
you covered that.
Yeah, I've seen the little
Oh, yeah.
barricades out there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When we met with them at the opening, they'd really like to have that place up and built by June.
Wow.
They were
Ambitious.
really
That's good.
excited about it, and I mean, these people are pretty good people, and I mean, the designs look good, and why is, her name's drawing a blank to me, Mary. They've already had a lot of people contacting them about getting into those units already. The interest in getting there, I think it'll be sold out long before it's even finished building. They've had a lot of strong interest, she said already, so that's good news on that. Like I say, Robert covered St. Francis, so I will tell you, I've heard nothing from the group that's proposed buying it. I mean, we met with Patsy. I've heard nothing from them, so there's nothing I can tell you guys on that until,
I don't think they're living there.
they're not living there. Patsy is actually, she runs the place over in Dayton.
Because she said they were going to be staying here, remember?
I remember that, but I haven't heard anything, and I did send her an email, and she never responded back to it. So, but they haven't come to the RDC, they haven't asked us for anything. So until they come to us, there's not a lot we can do, because this is a private transaction. Does anybody have anything else?
No.
If not, this was a very good meeting. It was quicker than I thought it would be, and I thank you all again for your service last year, and I look forward to working with you all again this year. I think we work pretty well together. I would ask for someone to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. We'll see you next month, February 19th.